when did that common sense of leadership, that capable leadership, leave on the owner's side? And God forbid, I want to go back almost to Marvin Miller, for crying out loud, on the player's side. When did their logic disappear to where everybody just lost track of what needed to be done?
I would say, Rob Manfred. I think he's an excellent labor lawyer. He was Bud Selig's number two. He did a great job. He worked capably with the union. He avoided work stoppages, and they promoted him to the number one spot, thinking, okay, this guy knows how to keep the trains running. And it turns out Rob Manfred just doesn't have that personal touch. You've certainly seen it in the public arena, how he continually says and does things that get panned, and he hasn't been able to reach out to players like his predecessor, Bud Selig. So in 2016, everything was fine because the players were so mismanaged that they got a deal done. But once the players woke up and kind of declared war on the owners, Rob couldn't do anything to stop it. On the player side, it's quite simple. Michael Weiner died. He was their leader, died in 2013. He was 51 years old, which is how old I am now. I'm not 35, but thank you. And he passed away. The 2011 CBA also was not great, but that was more a matter of agreeing to something that really kind of backfired in their face. There wasn't the instant horror like there was in 2016. So Michael appointed Tony Clark as his successor, and as much as I like and respect Tony, I covered him back when he was a player with the Yankees. I do think that was a mistake. I do think that Tony has not done a good enough job leading the union. He hired a deputy named Bruce Meyer, who also I think lacks people skills, and I think they both have struggled to get their train running on time as well.
Is it more about the lack of people skills or the lack of understanding the negotiating nuances of what happens with regard to money and fans and owners? It would seem there's got to be some sort of a disconnect there.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, the for instance, from the Tony Clark side of things, is it more that they simply were not able to relate to the owners, to come in and to be that? Because you mentioned the fact that they were simply just not the people skills that they didn't have. Or were they simply, because they were athletes themselves, were they not aware of the nuances of the game that it took to go into the negotiations and then start to bring up small points and trade and do that horse trading when it comes down to negotiation?
Yeah, it's certainly fair to question their skills as labor negotiators. Obviously, that's not how Tony grew up. He grew up playing ball, and even Bruce Meyer is more of a litigator than a negotiator. So, yeah, that's a fair point.
Is it on Manfred's side? Is he simply just unaware of how he comes off in these negotiations, or is he just an owner's puppet who is being the fop because he is told to be that by the owners to just be the face? What is it?
He, he's the owner's puppet. Yeah, I think if he's shown one thing since he took over back in 2015, it is his fealty to owners. It is his desperation to make the owners happy. You saw that with the Astros sign stealing scandal. Well, if you took the time to read his report, which in many ways was very well done, very strongly documented and reported, but he just would slip in these sentences like, "Oh, Jim Crane, the Astros owner, just feels terrible about this situation. He did everything he could once we opened this investigation. He is not to blame for this and that." So it took me aback. I mean, just because if you had deleted those mentions to Jim Crane, it would have been an A+ document, and instead that stuff really dragged it down. So yeah, Rob has not proven strong enough to stand up to his own owners, which I think Bud Selig was capable of doing because he was an owner himself and could kind of speak on their level. And Selig's predecessors were mostly accomplished people in other industries. And I think there's something to be said for that. I think it gives you a certain street cred that the labor lawyer for Major League Baseball does not.
Because he is the owner's guy, and because the owners are the ones who pay him, basically, is Rob Manfred even able to step out from that role and to be a negotiator, or is he just a hollow suit from top to bottom, no matter how you slice it?
Well, let me make clear the commissioner is not the one first chairing the negotiations, if I may use a labor law
Please.
term I've used. Historically, that never happens. You always appoint a deputy to do the actual negotiating, and yeah, obviously at the direction of the commissioner. But Rob has not been in the room a lot, which is pretty standard for commissioners. Commissioners will pop in here and there
Which the
and make a
fans don't
point.
understand because it's always the ire is aimed right at Rob Manfred. It's not getting the job done. That's really the wrong place to throw a
Well,
lot of your ire.
no, I think it's the right place to throw out the ire. But
Okay.
if you're referencing specifically his behavior in the room, then that's not as material. And I do think, I think his deputy Dan Halem is really good. Like Dan negotiated the last deal. Dan has been part of Major League Baseball for a long time, but again, I think he just has these marching orders that are absurd. That manifest themselves in the offers the owners have been making.